The church bells tolled heavy and slow, their echoes rolling through the gray morning sky. The streets outside were lined with sleek black cars and polished shoes, umbrellas shielding mourners from a drizzle that seemed to mourn along with them. But among the expensive suits and somber faces, there stood one man who did not belong, a janitor in a worn uniform, gripping the brim of his cap with trembling fingers. His eyes weren't filled with grief like the others. They were filled with urgency, determination, and a secret that could change everything. He cleared his throat, trying to step forward, but the guards at the gate blocked him. They saw only a poor, scruffy single dad, someone who had no business at the funeral of a billionaire. But what they didn't know was that this janitor carried a truth that could shake the foundation of everything happening that day. And if he failed to speak, a good man's legacy would be buried under lies. Friends, if you're hearing this now, lean in closer, because by the end of this story, you'll understand why that janitor had no choice but to stand up against the most powerful family in the city. And if you believe that courage still matters, if you believe truth can rise even in the darkest hour, then don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more stories that remind us of the strength within ordinary hearts. The man's name was Daniel. He had once worn a uniform of honor, a soldier who fought battles overseas, but life had not been kind when he returned. His wife passed away young, leaving him to raise his little girl alone. With bills piling up, the only job he could land was sweeping floors in skyscrapers owned by the same billionaire whose funeral he now tried to stop. But Daniel was not there for money, pity, or even justice for himself. He was there for his daughter, and for the man in that coffin, a man the world thought they knew, but didn't. The billionaire, Mr. Whitmore, had been painted by the media as cold and ruthless. A titan of industry who crushed small businesses under his empire. But Daniel knew another side, a side hidden from the cameras. One night, years ago, when Daniel's little girl fell sick and the hospital demanded a deposit he couldn't pay, it was Mr. Whitmore himself who had quietly covered the cost. No fanfare, no headlines. Just an anonymous payment from a friend. Daniel never told anyone, but he knew. And when his daughter pulled through, he vowed to repay the kindness someday. That day came sooner than he expected. Because inside that coffin, Daniel knew, was not the man people believed had died. The funeral was a staged spectacle, orchestrated by Whitmore's greedy relatives, eager to seize his empire before the truth came out. Daniel had overheard them in the skyscraper late at night, bragging how Whitmore had fallen into a coma, how they would fake his death and claim his fortune while keeping him hidden in a secret wing of the mansion. Daniel tried to tell the police. They laughed at a janitor's words against billionaires. He tried to gather proof but was chased off the property. And now here he was, desperate and shaking, as the coffin was lowered into the ground, not with a body, but with an empty shell, a cruel illusion. He shouted, his voice cracking across the silence of the mourners. "Stop! Don't bury him! This funeral is a lie!" Gasps rippled. Cameras turned. The guards tried to drag him back, but his daughter, a little girl with wide, innocent eyes, broke free from the crowd and ran to his side, clutching his hand. "Please," she cried, her voice trembling but pure, "my daddy isn't crazy. Mr. Whitmore is alive." For a moment, there was only silence, heavy as stone. Then, from the back of the crowd, a frail voice cut through. "She's right." Every head turned. An elderly nurse stepped forward, her hands shaking as she held up medical documents. She had worked in Whitmore's private estate, forced into silence, but seeing Daniel stand up gave her the courage to speak. "They lied. He's not dead. They locked him away, waiting to take everything." Chaos erupted. The billionaire's relatives turned pale, scrambling to deny it, but the truth spread like fire. Reporters rushed forward, cameras flashing. The guards backed away as more witnesses stepped up, emboldened by Daniel's bravery. Within minutes, the funeral turned into an investigation, the graveyard into a battleground of truth. Days later, the world learned the truth. Mr. Whitmore was indeed alive, rescued from confinement and restored to his rightful place. And when asked why a janitor risked everything to speak out, Daniel simply said, "Because when someone saves your child, you don't stay silent when they need saving." Whitmore, grateful beyond words, didn't just reward Daniel with money. He gave him something far greater, dignity. He offered him a new position, not as a janitor, but as the head of a foundation that would help single parents, veterans, and the struggling working class. Daniel accepted, not for himself, but to make sure no other father had to stand at the edge of despair, alone. And so the story that began with a janitor trying to stop a funeral ended with a city learning the power of one voice. One ordinary man who refused to let the truth be buried. My friends, if this story touched your heart, let it be a reminder, courage doesn't come from wealth or titles. It comes from love, love strong enough to face the impossible. So if you believe the world still needs voices like Daniel's, hit that like button and subscribe, because together, we keep these stories alive.